It started out like any other episode of the View a Lively studio. Applause, signs flashing, and a panel of hosts ready to grill their next celebrity guest. Blake Shelton, country music star and longtime judge on The Voice, walked onto the stage. With his signature charm, cracking a joke about needing stronger coffee to survive Joy Behar's infamous sarcasm, the crowd laughed, Joy smirked, and for a moment it looked like the episode would be another cheerful stop on his promo tour. But things turned quickly when the topic shifted from music to media politics. Joy, never one to hold back, brought up Blake's recent comments about staying out of Hollywood drama and asked, "But isn't that a little rich coming from someone married to Gwen Stefani?" Blake blinked. The audience went quiet. His smile tightened. "Asterisk, you want to go there, huh?" Blake replied, his southern drawl thickening. Joy chuckled. "I'm just saying, for a man who says he avoids drama, you sure picked a dramatic partner and—" "I love Gwen." Blake shifted in his chair, leaning forward. "I don't come here to throw dirt, Joy. I came here to talk music, and maybe make a few people smile." "I didn't know I had to defend who I married." Joy leaned in, two arms crossed. "Well, if you're going to dish advice to the public about staying away from controversy, maybe start with your own house." The tension snapped like a rubber band. Sarah Ann tried to change the topic, but Joy was locked in. "You came on The View, Blake. We don't do fluff." The air was electric. Viewers at home could feel it through their screens. Asterisk Blake took a deep breath, visibly trying to keep his cool. "I got no problem talking real, but when it turns into a hit job, I'm out." Joy raised an eyebrow. "No one's attacking you. You're just not used to a woman questioning you. Maybe that was it." Blake stood up, removed his mic, and muttered under his breath, "Unbelievable." Joy called after him, "You're walking out because you got asked a real question," but Blake didn't answer. He was already striding off the set. The studio gasped, half in shock, half in excitement. Cameras quickly cut to commercial, but the moment had been live. Twitter erupted. Blake Shelton storms off The View became a trending topic within minutes. Fans were split. Some applauded his refusal to be baited. Others called him thin-skinned, but no one could stop talking about it. Asterisk, behind the scenes, producers scrambled. Blake's team was furious, accusing The View of ambushing him. Joy, meanwhile, stood firm. He came on a show called The View. What did he expect? A lullaby, she reportedly told crew members. But not all the hosts were on her side. Sarah N. was overheard saying, "That crossed a line. We can ask hard questions without making people feel cornered." Sunny Hostin remained neutral, but hinted at regrets during a later podcast episode, saying, "Sometimes our curiosity turns confrontational without us realizing it." Within hours, media outlets were spinning the clash. Tabloids called it a televised train wreck. Conservative outlets praised Blake for standing his ground. Progressive ones sided with Joy's journalistic bluntness. Either way, the clip had gone viral and the fallout had just begun. Asterisk Blake posted later that night a photo of him on his ranch in jeans and boots, flipping steaks on a grill. The caption read, "Back to real life? No scripts, no noise, just meat and fire." The post racked up millions of likes. Gwen Stefani commented with a simple heart emoji, while fellow country stars rallied around him. Jason Aldean tweeted, "Keep being you, brother." Meanwhile, Joy addressed the incident. The next morning, on The View, "We don't apologize for asking real questions," she said. "If you walk off because someone challenged your narrative, that says more about you than it does about us." The audience clapped, but some groaned. And when Alyssa Farah Griffin mentioned that maybe tone matters as much as truth, the tension was still there, simmering beneath every word. Asterisk, days later, Whoopi Goldberg, who was off the day of the interview, returned and subtly threw water on the fire. "Look, sometimes things get heated, that's life. But people walk away for all kinds of reasons. Doesn't make them weak, doesn't make us wrong. Just means we need to talk with each other, not at each other." It was measured, it was calm, but it felt like a soft critique of both sides. Meanwhile, Blake canceled 2 other scheduled daytime appearances, including one on Good Morning America. His publicist said he needed a break from the circus. Joy doubled down in interviews, telling one radio host he left because I made him uncomfortable. Good. Maybe that's the point. The war of words wasn't over it, had just moved off camera. Asterisk petitions began to circulate, one demanding Joy apologize, another calling for Blake to return and face the panel again. Like a grown-up, neither happened. Instead, Blake announced a surprise live-stream concert called Unplugged and Unbothered, which he opened with a cheeky line, "No Joy here tonight, just music." The crowd laughed. He then performed a new song clearly inspired by the incident, with lyrics like, "You twist my words like barbed wire, but I won't burn in your fire." Fans went wild. It shot to no. Won on iTunes overnight. Meanwhile, The View aired a clarifying statement saying all guests are briefed on potential topics, but the wording was cautious. Neither side wanted to escalate, but both refused to. Back down asterisk weeks later, Blake did a sit-down with Kelly Clarkson. She asked gently about what happened. Blake shrugged. "I'm not mad. I'm just over it. You can disagree with someone without trying to humiliate them. That's not honesty. That's theater." Kelly nodded, clearly understanding the tightrope, the walk between being real and being ratings bait. Joy wasn't named, but her shadow lingered over every word. That interview, too, went viral, but this time the tone was quieter, more reflective. For once, Blake wasn't storming out. He was staying, sitting, explaining. And that vulnerability struck a chord with fans across all backgrounds. Asterisk back on The View. The team moved on, but not without some scars. Ratings had spiked during the controversy, but began to dip afterward. Viewers were split. Some wanted more fire, others missed the warmth. Producers knew they had walked a dangerous line. Joy remained unapologetic, but even she seemed a little wearier in the weeks that followed. The incident had reminded everyone that the cost of viral fame is often dignity. Blake had walked away with his fan base stronger than ever, but a part of his reputation as the laid-back cowboy had been tested. Joy's role as the unapologetic firebrand had solidified, but at what price? Asterisk months later, when asked by a magazine if he'd ever go back on The View, Blake laughed and said, "Only if Joy's out sick." It was a joke, but not really. And when Joy was asked if she regretted how it went down, she said, "I don't regret asking the question. I regret that he didn't stay to answer it." In the end, the clash between two stubborn stars became a cultural flashpoint, a reminder of what happens when personality, politics, and pride collide on live TV. And for everyone watching, it wasn't just about Blake or Joy. It was about choosing when to speak, when to listen, and when to simply walk away. Though the cameras had long stopped rolling and the media cycle had cooled slightly, insiders say the incident created long-term shifts behind the scenes at The View. Joy Behar, though publicly defiant, was privately given a subtle warning from top ABC execs. A source close to production revealed they told her to keep doing Joy. But maybe remember that we're still technically a daytime talk show, not a courtroom cross-examination. Laughed off the suggestion, calling it corporate cowardice, but other hosts sensed the atmosphere had changed. Alyssa Farah Griffin became more careful with her wording during future interviews, and Sarah N. began inserting disclaimers, like "with all due respect," before even mildly pointed questions. The friction may have blown over publicly, but a quiet tension remained behind every smile on set. Meanwhile, Blake's unexpected status as a culture warrior was something even he hadn't anticipated. Fan pages turned his walkout into a meme of personal empowerment, his face next to captions like, "Sometimes walking away is stronger than staying to argue." Even people outside the country music world started chiming in. Conservative commentators dubbed him a symbol of integrity, while daytime critics called him overly sensitive. But Blake avoided every interview request related to the incident. He refused to fan the flames. Instead, he threw himself into music at his home, Life with Gwen. Sources close to him said he was embarrassed more than angry, and hated how the drama overshadowed his actual work. Still, the experience left a lasting bruise. One friend said he'll never go back on one of those shows again, ever. Joy, never one to fade into the background, subtly referenced Blake again during a later interview with a controversial political guest. When that guest attempted to deflect a question, she smirked and said, "Please don't go Blake Shelton on me." The audience laughed, but producers reportedly cringed. ABC had been trying to avoid reigniting the controversy, especially with advertisers complaining about the polarizing tone. One longtime sponsor of The View allegedly paused their ad slots for a full week. It wasn't just about Blake, it was about an overall fatigue among viewers. The show had always been about views, but the line between passionate discourse and provocation had started to blur. Executives began to question, how much conflict is too much?